Record. I think we're good to go.
Okay. Again, thank you. I just want to say thank you for taking your time out of your day and joining us today. For those of you who don't know, I am Erin Kemp, and you will see me mainly at Kemp Travel. And for those of you who don't know, Kemp Travel Group has recently purchased Lakeshore Tours and Travel. So they fall under the Kemp Travel Group umbrella. However, we are still operating as normal, and still plenty of the staff from Lakeshore and Cardinal are both still with us. So you can find our offices. Cardinal is still open in Lindsay. However, we've moved a couple units down just to a bigger space to accommodate for our clients coming in office. And then Lakeshore Tours and Travel has actually moved up King Street and is in the Kemp Travel office at 17 King Street East, which is just beside the Pita Pit. So we are all still here, but there have been a few changes, but we are all here to help you. And we still have Marilyn, Jim, and Bev, who are still working with us at Lakeshore and Cardinal. So again, just want to thank you all for coming out this afternoon to learn a little bit more about Rocky Mountaineer, what they're doing to keep us all safe while traveling with them through COVID-19 and after COVID. And we are going to touch on our escorted Rocky Mountaineer tour that we have set up for August 2021. So we'll be able to answer any questions you may have in regards to that tour specifically, or any questions you may have to Rocky Mountaineer in general. And we have Tyler Harrison here from Rocky Mountaineer, who is going to take us through a presentation on Rocky. So I'll hand it over to him.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much, Erin, for having me on. Thanks everyone for joining us on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Definitely don't want to take up too much of your time. I know the weather is nice out there, so we'll hopefully let you enjoy it. But yeah, really happy to be here to talk a little bit about the journey into the extraordinary that we see there. With Rocky Mountaineer. I've been with Rocky starting this past February, so a little bit of a crazy time to be joining a new company, but I've been working in travel and group travel for about 5-6 years before that, so I've seen a lot of things in the industry for sure. But today I'll just show you the overview of what we'll be talking today, and in this lecture, a little bit about what Rocky Mountaineer is, the experience, if you're not familiar with what it's like on the train, all the sort of things that you can do, the destinations that you'll be going to. I, of course, do want to talk a little bit about health and safety with the pandemic still, you know, being right in the middle of that right now. A lot of people are wondering, what will travel look like in 2021? What will things look like on the train before and after? So I'll just touch on that a little bit. I would say, though, for anyone who wants to learn more in detail, we do have links on our website that we have a COVID landing page, as well as a preparing to go section that just has some great helpful hints and tips for traveling. And then we'll just dive into what a Rocky Mountaineer journey is, the routes, the different service levels, those great destinations that you see on the West Coast and the Rockies, all the things to see and do when you're not on the train. And then the great thing about Kemp and Lakeshore and Cardinal tours is that they're full service operations. So we do have a special group tour that I'd love to just go through and see if that might be a fit for what you're looking to do in 2021. And then we can also talk about some of the new things Rocky Mountaineer is doing right now with promotions and our new enhanced booking flexibility. And then, of course, open it up for questions for anything that I don't cover. So let's just jump right into what Rocky Mountaineer is, what the journey and experience has been over the last 30 years. That's really made it one of Canada's top luxury experiences on the West Coast. And you know, a lot of people don't realize that it has been around for 30 years, starting in 1980. It's a family-run company. Peter Armstrong had this crazy idea back in the day to sort of start this luxury train line that you might see in Europe or other parts of the world. Certainly, we don't get that in Ontario with the TTC or the GO, but it really is a one-of-a-kind experience going through the heart of the Rockies in BC, Alberta, and it really tells a great story of Canada, how it became a unified nation. The railroad was such a huge part of joining all parts of the country, back in the 1800s. So really, this is a way of exploring, our home country in a way that like no other. Whether you're flying, whether you're driving on your own, being able to do it in the laps of luxury is just a one of a kind experience. And we do have 3 different routes for that. But what we really feel like Rocky Mountaineer does better than just about anything else in Canada is sort of combine all these different elements to make an extraordinary trip for you. And that starts with world-class service. That's certainly while you're on the train, but we really feel that we hit on this mark all throughout the process, and that, of course, falls in line with working with great tour operators like Kemp Travel and Lakeshore and Cardinal, just to make sure that every single question that you might have, every single need is well taken care of before you start your journey, so that there's absolutely no details missed. But of course, when you're on the train, you have our culinary team, you have our guest host services crew that will be taking care of every need, storytelling, narration, and just telling you the history of the lands that you're going to be traveling through, and why that's so important to this nation. And really, it is a feast for your senses. And now I'm definitely going to be leaning into the food and the beverages and the atmosphere on the train, but it's really a feast for all of your senses. It absolutely combines the outdoor wilderness, the rugged terrains, the beauty of Canada and the West Coast when you're traveling in the spring, summer, or the fall is really just unparalleled. So to be able to combine it all in this luxury experience is a very, very unique thing. And then, of course, bringing that wildlife element as close to you as possible. No, you can't get off the train and necessarily pat a grizzly or anything like that, but with the way that the train goes at a leisurely 30-mile-per-hour pace, you absolutely will have the ability to take a very candid selfie, some great video. It's an unplugged experience. So with it being only daytime travel, there's no sleeping on the train. So that's one of the questions we always get. I want to mention that hopefully there's no sleeping on the train, because it's only during the day. It's not a commuter rail where you're just trying to get from point A to point B. You really want to soak in the sights and the sceneries and the wildlife and everything that's happening outdoors, outside of the train is a huge, huge part of that. So we do our best to try to make that all into one. So what you can sort of expect while you're on the train, well, these are some of the elements there. We do get a pretty early jump. It doesn't matter whether you're traveling from Vancouver to Banff or up to Jasper in the north. We like to get the train rolling at about 8 a.m. There'll be a wake-up call at your hotel sometime between 6 and 6:30. You don't have to worry about bringing your luggage with you. You really only need a day bag, maybe a light change of a jacket or a sweater, just depending on the season, but you just need with you what you'll have on the train. Your luggage will actually get carted on a truck to your next destination. It'll beat you there. It'll be waiting for you in your room, so you don't have to worry about that. We have a celebratory toast first thing in the morning to get things going. That one's a non-alcoholic one, but you'll certainly have plenty of opportunities to indulge throughout the day. And then delicious breakfast served in the morning, lunch, midday, and then snacks throughout the day as well. So you're definitely very well fed. But once you get on the train and we're rolling to our next destination, really your job is done. Leave it up to our guest service host to take care of every need that you might have, whether that's culinary, beverage, storytelling, narration. They really are the best in the business, and a lot of them are local to the territories that you'll be traveling from. So they have this great sort of homegrown insider knowledge and insight about all those different lands and areas that you're going through in BC and Alberta. But essentially your job is just to sit back and relax until you get to your next destination. Just depending on the route that you're going to, depending on if you're going east or west, typically we roll in at around anywhere between 6 and 7 p.m. So you'll have time to get dinner on your own. A coach will transfer you to your hotel. Depending on the location, some of them are walking distance from the train station. So you have a little bit of time to explore the city that you're in, whether that's Kamloops, Lake Louise, or Whistler. But certainly you want to get enough rest for your next leg of the journey, which starts pretty early morning. So before I jump into the routes and destinations and all of that, I just want to touch a little bit on the health and safety protocols that we're working with right now, just to ensure that we have the best practices moving forward to stop and prevent the spread of COVID-19 that's happening right now. So I can't say for certain every single thing that will be implemented for next year. Our train starts to operate in mid to late April, so there's still a lot of time right now to implement some of those procedures. We were, I suppose, in the advantageous position that when COVID-19 hit in March, we weren't operating yet. So we sort of joked that our trains were already in quarantine. And with that, we've had the ability to sort of really look at things in a vacuum and really try to figure out what is the best way in terms of sanitation, air filtration, turning over the trains, quarantine, and making sure that everything is safe and sound as possible from one group to the next that will be traveling on the train. So I can share with you a few of the things that we're talking about, and this even extends to before you're on the train, because there's so many different elements with flights, hotels, guided tours, coach transfers. So we will be looking at doing a more automated check-in procedure. Pre-travel screening will happen as well. We're definitely preparing for the possibility that it might only be Canadians on board next year. We don't know what will be happening with the border, but if it is just Canadians, you know, you can have peace of mind in knowing that you are traveling with people who are following the same protocols and guidelines in terms of quarantining and social distancing. So we want to make sure that every aspect of that is properly measured, whether that's loading onto the train at each station or getting to and from your destinations and your hotels. So certainly something that our host service crew are looking at while you're actually on board the train. We've looked at upgrading our air filtration system. Another question that people always ask is, does Rocky Mountaineer use recycled air that you might find on an airplane? It actually uses the outdoor air and natural air that would be filtering through the train already, but we have looked at optimizing that just depending on the car that you're in. We will obviously be mandating social distancing as well, so there won't be fully packed train cars unless, of course, something drastic changes for the better, a vaccine or something like that by the time we travel, and we don't have to worry about that. So it is a little bit of a Tetris game trying to piece things together. But our operations team will be working on that. They've also upgraded the disinfectant and sanitization of the train cars after each use. There wouldn't be an immediate turnaround. You would definitely only be on one specific train car, and same with our hosts. They wouldn't be traveling back and forth between each one to avoid any sort of contamination. But there's a lot of work to be done on the sort of food, beverage, culinary side of things, using single-use items and just making sure the cleanliness is as good as it can be to avoid any of those unfortunate situations. And really, we also look to our partners for the hotels, coaching, guided tours to make sure that they're also practicing these health and safety protocols and safety measures there. So with that in mind, I'm just going to jump into the sort of 4 elements that you need to think about when you're planning your Rocky Mountaineer journey. Not to have all that doom and gloom there. We know we can't travel at the moment, but hopefully in 6 to 8 months in the middle of 2021, when the weather's nice again, we'll want to be out and about and exploring the rest of Canada. So first things first, choose your rail route. We'll go over those in a second. We do have 2 different service levels for you to enjoy, Gold Leaf and Silver Leaf. So I'll touch on the differences there. And then I mentioned before, we operate in the spring, summer, and autumn. All of them are great, offering different advantages and experiences, but it might just depend on what type of traveler you are specifically. And then what are the different things that you're going to do off the train? There's so many different packages. I think there's up to about 100 or so. It can be very overwhelming, all the sightseeing, add-on itineraries that you can do. So that's why it's really important to work with your travel advisor just to make sure that you're 100% getting everything in your package that you want to see on the trip. So let's just jump into where the train actually operates. I'll do an overhead map here just so you can see it. There it is, beautiful BC and Alberta. You'll notice the three distinct color train lines that we have, red, green, and blue. I'll just mention the red line first because that's sort of our most iconic. That is the first passage to the west, taking the more southern route from Vancouver to Kamloops for your overnight, and then traveling into the heart of the Rockies in Lake Louise and Banff. The blue line is the journey through the clouds. You'll notice that the first leg of that journey from Vancouver to Kamloops is the same, but on day 2, you take a bit of a northern jaunt up to Jasper, which is really a bit of an undiscovered gem of Alberta. People love to talk about Lake Louise and Banff for good reason, but Jasper combines a lot of those elements that might surprise you a little bit less known, but certainly lots of things to do up in Jasper. And if you're a wilderness buff and want to get lost in nature, a great place to experience that. And then we have our longest route on the green line. That is the Rainforest to the Gold Rush. You'll notice that there is an extra day on there. Vancouver to Whistler, all the way up north to Quesnel, a northern outpost, before again heading over to Jasper. Right now, I'm mentioning all of these routes sort of starting in Vancouver and then moving east, but just know that you can do a Rocky Mountaineer train journey in either direction. It really does just depend on where you want to spend more of your time before or after the train. There's no right or wrong way to do it, but because our head office is in Vancouver, most of the time they have people starting out west and then moving their way east. And also for anyone wondering where you can sort of add on and spend more time, if you take a look at the 4 or 5 solid dots that we have there, the squares, Vancouver, Jasper, Lake Louise, and Banff, and then the green line going to Calgary, that's really where you can extend your trip before or after your train journey. And Whistler, Kamloops, and Quesnel, those are your intermediary stopway points while you're already on the train. So you're not able to get off and spend more time in any of those destinations, but you certainly could circle back. We'll talk about circle journeys as well if you want to combine 2 or more of the train journeys. Just if you really want to see it all, you absolutely can do that as well. But just to give you an idea where you can start sort of planning your before and after on the train. So let's talk a little bit about First Passage to the West. There you can see it on the bottom right of the screen. So let's say you are starting in Vancouver, those beautiful, mild, temperate Pacific Coast climates, almost tropical depending on the time of year. Obviously with Vancouver, it's a big metropolitan city with lots of things to see and do there. Traveling east to Kamloops, you go through the Fraser Valley, the canyons, the rivers, really beautiful, lush, green, very serene, and then sort of heading into this dry, desert, arid Okanagan, which we know, great wines, great food. But when you leave Kamloops, this is really where you're going to see the iconic part of Canada. This is where you'll see the last spike, the spiral tunnels for the train buffs that really, really want to dig in deep into the engineering marvel of what these train lines were. The First Passage to the West, it's probably our most popular for those who, maybe haven't been out to the Rockies before or the West Coast. This checks off so many different boxes. And then you make your way to Lake Louise and Banff, which obviously are going to be on everybody's bucket list. And now you'll notice that you have both of them there, Lake Louise and Banff. So which one is it? That's really up to you. You'll have the option of getting off in Lake Louise and spending time there, or you can continue on that day to Banff and spend more time there. You can obviously go back and forth after your train journey, but you will have to just decide where your finishing position will be on that. Some of the highlights that you'll see, the Vermilion Lakes, just beautiful blues and lush greens, nestled in, you know, these canyons and craters, and the majestic mountain tops. Castle Mountain is just sort of, we call them hero shots, and these are where you're gonna find absolutely beautiful picture opportunities and photo ops. But really, this journey will tell the history of Canada coming together as a nation. And really, again, the engineering marvel of how it was all put together. They had to bring in engineers from Europe to try to figure out how to go through these spiral tunnels and just sort of connect through the Rockies. So really, really an interesting way to spend a couple of days going from Vancouver into Alberta in the Rockies. Next, we'll go through Journey Through the Clouds, again, starting in Vancouver, working your way into Kamloops on that first day. So that's the exact same as First Passage to the West. And then on day 2, you take a little bit of that northern jaunt up to Jasper. And this is really where you're going to get into the heart of the wilderness. These are some train lines that really, they're not even commuter tracks. Some of it is used for freight. This is really into the heart of the wild. There you see a beautiful Mount Robson, which is actually the highest peak in the Canadian Rockies. If you're lucky, you'll get a beautiful shot like that. Oftentimes it's sort of shrouded in mist and clouds, but absolutely, you know, a jewel of the Rockies, and a marvel to sort of see, to be running right through. This is where you get your unplugged experience into nature. So some of the other highlights that you'll see there, Pyramid Falls, Moose Lake, it's really combining a lot of those elements of land, sea, and sky. Pyramid Falls, it's not exactly Niagara Falls, but during the peak season in the summer, it gets quite a good flow going. In the spring, it's still going to be a little bit frozen, but all the way in through the fall, you'll still get you know, a beautiful sort of surround serene setting, and you'll be able to actually hear the falls coming down, and it's a great backdrop to sort of go by at a leisurely pace. Next, we'll jump into Rainforest to the Gold Rush. So this is definitely for the adventurer at heart. Like I said, it's a little bit of a longer journey. You'd actually be leaving from our North Vancouver station at the beginning, not the main Vancouver station. And it's only a half-day journey from Vancouver to Whistler. So this is starting right on the West Coast, moving your way just, you know, on the side of the ocean. It's beautiful, majestic views. Getting into the Whistler in the mid-afternoon, so you have a ton of time to actually sort of dig deep into another great iconic BC destination. And for anyone who hasn't been to Whistler since maybe the 2010 Olympics, it's been completely renovated and revitalized. It's world-class, obviously, for skiing and hiking during the summer, but amazing hotels, great restaurants, great shopping, very, very walkable. Squamish, which is just a short distance by, has some great sightseeing tours there. They have such an affinity and pay homage to the Indigenous culture in this part of British Columbia. There's an amazing Indigenous culture center just outside of Whistler that's very interactive, and tells a great story of the people who sort of built that territory. Day 2 has you moving from Whistler really far north up to Quesnel. You might be thinking, where the heck is Quesnel? I've never heard of this place before. Fair enough. It's probably not on a lot of people's to-do list in British Columbia, but it was sort of this northern outpost. It was a big deal, you know, 100 years ago or so during the gold rush. It was sort of that northern spot before heading up into the really, really rugged north and up into Alaska. Unfortunately, they didn't hit it big there. Otherwise, you know, it would probably be more of a deal than it is today, but you do have to stop somewhere. And really, by the time you're getting up into Quesnel, this is, you know, very sort of secluded. If you like lush forest greenery, this part of the journey will be for you. And it's going to be amazing to see the difference traveling from that warm, temperate, mild climate of the lower mainland in Vancouver all the way up to the north in Quesnel in one day, and then moving even a little bit further north and then heading southeast to Jasper to finish off there. So I should mention with Rainforest of the Gold Rush and Journey Through the Clouds, once you're in Jasper, you do have the option of taking a day tour down the Athabasca Glacier, the Columbia ice fields, down to Lake Louise and Banff. So you can absolutely combine that part into your Rocky Mountaineer journey as well. But I think this picture sort of really combines a lot of those elements of what you can expect in Rainforest of the Gold Rush. There you see Mount Robson as well in the bottom right. But I can't think of another way where you can sort of combine the ocean, the mountain, the lush green forests of the BC North, and then working your way into the mountains of Alberta. So it really does have it all. Just keep in mind that this particular route does start a little bit later in the season, a couple weeks after First Passage to the West, as well as Journey Through the Clouds, just because it does go so far north, and it usually ends a little bit earlier, not quite as far into October as well. So this might be something you want to do closer to peak season if that's when you're thinking of traveling. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about where you can go on the train. Let's talk about what it's going to be like on board and how you want to relax in style. We do have two fantastic service levels in Silverleaf and Goldleaf. You might be asking yourself, I thought there was another one, wasn't there Red Leaf? Well, we jokingly refer to it as Dead Leaf. It hasn't been around for about 5 or 6 years. Just wasn't quite in line with that luxury status that we were going for with Rocky Mountaineer. And really what happened with those train cars is they completely stripped them down to their chassis and then rebuilt them as Silverleaf custom designed single level coaches. So it's fully upgraded. The difference between Silverleaf, you might not notice it quite as much as you would have in the past. They're both at a really, really high level. There you can see the main difference visually in the bottom right corner is just that Goldleaf is a custom designed bi-level coach. Now, it's not exactly a 2-story coach. It's not twice as high as a Silverleaf coach would be, but there gives a good visual of just sort of where you'd be spending your time on each coach. Because Silverleaf is all one level, it's really sort of set it and forget it. Everything is done at your seat. You're actually served at your seat for your meals and beverages. With Goldleaf, you do have your seating up on the second level there. It's glass dome ceilings, but there's an exclusive executive dining lounge on the main level, as well as the outdoor viewing platform. But we'll talk about those a little bit later. Right now, I'm going to jump into Silverleaf and talk about all the great things there. As you can see, it's a very interactive and very social environment because you're spending all of your time pretty much in one place. You'll notice that there is a little bit of an outdoor viewing platform. We call it a breezeway. It's not quite as expansive as you would find on Goldleaf, but you still absolutely do have the ability to get up, walk around, get some fresh air, and sort of interact with nature that way. The seats that you find on Silverleaf are the exact same as you'll find on Goldleaf. If you're a taller person, not myself, I'm only about 5'5", 5'6", but the ceiling and the headroom in Silverleaf is pretty expansive. It's about 8-foot ceilings there. The leg room that you get in Silverleaf and Goldleaf are exactly the same, probably more than you would find in business class or first class on a flight. Super comfortable chairs. They actually do swivel around. So if you're a group of 4, you can definitely spend your time talking to each other that way. Like I said, a very interactive social experience. But there you also see our guest service hosts taking care of the food and beverage, as well as the storytelling and narration. Our Silverleaf hosts are actually the more experienced ones. In our crew, you have to have done Goldleaf for 3 years before you're on Silverleaf, just because you're handling a few more of the duties there. Now, if you're thinking, okay, I'm sitting at my seat, they're bringing food to me, what am I in for here? Is it going to be like box lunches or microwave dinners? No, absolutely not. The food is being prepared fresh on the train. That is maybe one of the bigger differences between Silverleaf and Goldleaf, is just the options that are available on Gold Leaf because it is a more expansive kitchen. But absolutely on Silverleaf, you're not going to go disappointed. Some of the best cheesecake you'll find this side of New York, real plates, real cutlery, real food. And we can absolutely accommodate any sort of dietary restriction or allergies that you might have. Just communicate that to your travel advisor, and they'll work with our guest experience team just to make sure that nothing is missed in translation. Whether that's vegetarian, vegan, gluten-free, don't worry about it at all. We can take care of it. What did I miss on here? Oh, I just want to mention that the windows on Silverleaf, again, you can see them there. They're almost floor to ceiling. So we've heard from some guests that they actually prefer Silverleaf to Gold just because of the vantage points that you get. Both of them a climate controlled environment, but for photo taking from the actual comfort of your seat, some people have said that Silverleaf is actually a little bit more conducive to that. Now we're going to move over to Gold Leaf, and well, what can I say? It's gold for a reason. We pulled out all the stops with it. There you can see in the upper left, just a great view of the outdoor vantage point of the coach. You can see some people on that outdoor viewing platform, but really it's such a unique experience to be traveling on this glass dome ceiling. Again, it's a very cozy environment, but you have a more expansive host team on Gold Leaf. So just the immediacy of food or beverage or anything like that just might be taken care of a little bit quicker just because the duties are separated a little bit more. Again, because the lower level has the exclusive dining cart, there's a more expansive kitchen. This is really for the foodie who wants to dig deep into, the local cuisine. And that's something that we really pride ourselves on with Rocky Mountaineer is when you're in BC or Alberta, we really like to use this sort of 100-mile rule where everything is being sourced from the areas and the territories that you're traveling to or from. So I can't tell you exactly what will be on the menu for 2021 when you travel. People, they always wonder, okay, how good could the food really be on a train? So just to give you an idea, it could be Pacific salmon or prawns on a bed of risotto with fresh BC vegetables or something like that. Again, these are being prepared to order. On Gold Leaf, you're going to have a choice of maybe 4 or 5 options for breakfast, 4 or 5 options for lunch. Whereas on Silverleaf, you're maybe only going to have 2 or 3 just because of the kitchen facilities. But here, I'll give you a little bit of a teaser of what you can expect, at least in terms of quality. Of course, when you're in the Okanagan, we want to dive deep into those delicious wines that they have there. Jackson Triggs, the Sauvignon Blancs and Cabernets. But absolutely, the food is top notch and really unparalleled in this sort of situation. Grass-fed Alberta beef, Fraser Valley chicken. We talked about the Pacific steelhead salmon. Really, we have a little bit for everyone. It changes depending on the season. The only thing I will note that we can't accommodate on board are religious requirements such as like kosher or halal, just because it is being prepared fresh on the train. We're not able to do that ahead of time. So just things to keep in mind. Now, we've talked about the different service levels on the train. You're going to be comfortable in Silverleaf or Gold Leaf no matter what you choose. You might be wondering, can I do a Silverleaf hotel with a Gold Leaf train experience? Absolutely, you can mix and match. But that's a great lead in to the perfect ending of your day because you're going to be spending 7 or 8 hours on the train. What are you going to be doing while you're off the train when you're in Kamloops or Whistler or Quesnel? Well, we have excellent hotel partners that really fit everyone's budget and your style of travel. For some people, the train is going to be the main feast and the hotel is not going to be as important. Of course, we want you to still be comfortable. So we do have great partners on Silverleaf. Very recognizable, world-renowned brands such as Sheraton's, Marriott's. You're going to be very, very comfortable. You'll probably have a little bit more options on Silverleaf in terms of location of your hotels. Just because the gold leaf properties, now these are the creme de la creme, these are your iconic Fairmont properties, the Rimrock in Banff, the Chateau Lake Louise, the Chateau Jasper, the Pacific Rim Hotel in Vancouver. These ones go fast. So if you are thinking of having that really elevated high-end experience and you want gold leaf all the way through, my one word of advice would be book early, book often, especially during peak season, because as you can see, Chateau Lake Louise, there's no better way to really spend your time in destination. You can absolutely upgrade to a mountainside room or a lakeside room, no problem. We can accommodate that. But if you are particular about your hotel choice, you are going to want to look into that a little bit earlier. Again, with Silverleaf, you're going to have a little bit more option. Say you're in downtown Banff and you really want to experience the nightlife, the shopping, the restaurants, then you might want to go for a Silverleaf property just because it's right in the thick of things. Whereas the gold leaf properties, they can be a little bit more secluded, maybe even built on the side of a mountain or something like that when it comes to the Rimrock. So just keep that in mind when you're on your train journey, but also before and after where you want to be spending your time. But either way, you cannot go wrong with any of the hotels provided on the Silverleaf or gold leaf level. Okay, we've talked about where the train goes. We've talked about what it's like on the train. And I should mention before we fully move to the destinations, when I said it was an unplugged experience, that means no Wi-Fi. We do that by design. We want everybody to be fully immersed into what's happening on the train and outside of the train. And absolutely, for certain parts of the routes, you probably won't even have cell phone service because you're in such remote areas that you can't get to otherwise, other than on these train tracks. So something to keep in mind when you're traveling. But let's talk a little bit about where you're going to start your journey, where you're going to end your journey, and all of the different things that you can add on when you're not on the train. So let's start in the east. Let's start with Banff. Very comparable to Whistler. I like to think of that as sort of the similar destination that you would find it in Alberta. It has a little bit of everything. Again, it hosted an Olympic Games in 1988, but things have evolved in Banff since then. The downtown strip has been, again, revitalized and renovated. You have world-class restaurants, shopping, very walkable, and it's a Four Seasons type of destination. So it doesn't matter if, the skiing has died off for the season. You're going to have a ton of things to see and do in downtown Banff during the summer. But also in the surrounding areas. If you want to combine sort of that urban setting, but in a resort type setting, Banff really, really does that with hot springs, gondolas, guided tours. You could hike up a mountain in the morning, have tea at the top there, and then work your way back down and have a gourmet meal at the end of the day. There's very, very few destinations in Canada that can sort of boast that. If you are planning on flying in or out of Calgary, 100% do not sleep on Banff. It's something that, it's got activities and itineraries for everyone. It doesn't matter how outdoorsy you are, you can definitely do it a little bit more pampered in Banff for sure. Now, just a little bit further away, we have Lake Louise, an iconic setting. People come from all over the world to go to Banff and Lake Louise. It's just a one-of-a-kind experience, so tranquil, so serene, but you are definitely out of the fray. There's no downtown Lake Louise like you have in downtown Banff. So if you're staying at the Chateau Lake Louise or something like that, you're probably going to be spending a lot of time there, but you can still do it in luxury and comfort. The amenities there are amazing for sure if you anything culinary wise, but massage, spa. If you wanted to do a little bit of a hike around the area, some canoeing, kayaking on the lake, absolutely beautiful during the summer. But if you want to get lost outdoors and do some sightseeing to the surrounding areas, Lake Louise is really for the nature lover and the wilderness lover at heart. So you might want to look at doing a night or two at Lake Louise, a night or two at Banff, two very different experiences there. Then we're going to work our way up the Athabasca ice field, the Columbia ice fields to Jasper. And I sort of mentioned before, Jasper is maybe a little bit less talked about than Lake Louise and Banff, but I really do feel like it combines a lot of those elements that makes each of those destinations great. Jasper, it's sort of a sleepy little ski town, but it also comes alive in summer. It's got a quaint little downtown area. You can probably walk it in about 30 to 40 minutes or so, but there's lots of fun little shops, restaurants, bars, cafes that you can go to. But you also have the ability to do some really great outdoor adventuring. There you see some rafting, the gondolas, a boat tour, beautiful hiking. You are very much in the Alberta North at this point. So a lot more wildlife. It's not nearly as developed as some of the other areas closer to Calgary. But I feel like it really does a great job of combining some of the fun aspects of Banff, but the outdoorsy wilderness parts of Lake Louise. So a great way to start or end your tour. For anyone who's maybe already been to the Rockies before, you've already done Banff, you've already done Lake Louise, you want to see something new, Jasper is a great way to do it. You could still fly into Calgary, spend some time in Banff and Lake Louise, maybe do a self-drive option or a guided tour up to Jasper, start your train journey there, and then work your way to Vancouver. Like I said, there's so many different ways that you can do it, frontwards or backwards. And then that moves us over to Vancouver, the big city on the West Coast. I was fortunate enough to live there for 3 years. I don't know if I've ever seen a city that really combines outdoors and indoors and metropolitan lifestyle quite so well. There you see on the top of the slide, beautiful Capilano Suspension Bridge. This is actually in North Vancouver, just a 15-minute sea bus ride from the main city. Beautiful, beautiful. You know, you might almost think that you're in the Amazon or something like that with the size of these trees, but it's a one-in-a-kind sort of opportunity to sort of walk amongst the treetops there. You have Granville Island, which is a awesome little farmer's market right in the middle of downtown, super walkable, great little shops and restaurants. There you could then go to the seawall for a bike ride or a walk around there. My wife is from Vancouver. She used to jog around the seawall, and she said she would see Michael Bublé there all the time. I can't guarantee you that you would see him there while you're on your trip, but you absolutely never know. Some definitely opportunities for celeb sightings there. There you also see Stanley Park in the bottom right. It's 10 times bigger than Central Park in New York, but people don't talk about it nearly as much. This is, again, just a short walk from downtown Vancouver, where you're going to have nightlife, great shopping, those iconic restaurants and hotels. Again, super walkable, a short jaunt to Victoria, Vancouver Island, if you wanted to take the ferry over there, maybe even go over to Tofino. There's so much to see and do on the West Coast, and every single part of it is just a little bit different. Again, moving up north to Whistler, you could do a day trip there as well. So, you know, Vancouver, I can't say enough about it in terms of the activities, and there's no better time to go than in the summer. We're not operating in the winter. This sort of brings us into when you can travel on the Rocky Mountaineer, and people ask, well, what's the best time to travel? I always say there's no bad time except for the winter, because we're not operating, and certainly in Vancouver, that's when you're getting the rain. So traveling in the spring, summer, or autumn, you're going to get beautiful weather on the West Coast no matter what. But it will be a slightly different experience, especially in the Rockies. We'll just start with spring. So our season typically opens mid-April, and it runs all the way through to the second week or so of October. The spring is beautiful. We actually do find a lot of international tourists like to travel in the spring. Next year, that might not be the case, but the great thing about the spring is it's so fresh, everything's new, the thaw is coming. So there's this energy in the air. Wildlife is starting to come out of hibernation. They're a little bit sleepier, so they're not in their full season. They don't get scared off by the train nearly as much. So yeah, they might come right up to it, swim alongside of it. You never know. That's the great thing about Rocky Mountaineer is we have the ability to sort of, we're not trying to get to Kamloops by a certain time and pick up other people. So if there's a really great wildlife photo op or something like that, the train can pretty much slow down to a halt to allow passengers to really soak that in. Just be warned, in the Rockies, in Lake Louise, in Banff, in Jasper, especially in the north, the weather can be fickle in the spring when you're talking April and May. You're still going to experience some snow. You still possibility of some weather delays there. So just keep that in mind. You're definitely going to want to think about what you're bringing with you in terms of clothing, boots, parkas, that type of stuff. If you plan on spending more time in the Rockies during that earlier springtime season. But again, it's beautiful. Flights are maybe a little bit less. Hotel availability is maybe a little bit better, but maybe not every single sightseeing add-on is going to be available in those super, super early months. It's very weather dependent, so something to keep in mind. Now, we move into the summer, and well, it's the most popular time of year to travel for a reason. Peak season, everything is in bloom. It doesn't matter where you go, if it's Whistler up to Quesnel to Jasper or on the west coast of Vancouver, the weather is going to be beautiful. But this is when people typically like to travel. We would often see people combining Rocky Mountaineer with an Alaskan cruise, or perhaps even the Calgary Stampede or something like that. That's right in the middle of July. That's peak season. So everything is just a little bit more limited in terms of availability. You want to get on booking it early. But having said that, this is really when everything is on full display. But if you're not someone who likes to travel during the crowds and the hustle and bustle and everything like that, summer might not be exactly for you. And that's when I would transition into the late summer, into autumn. We're finding more and more Canadians actually wanting to travel during this time. You're still going to get that great weather. It will be cooling a little bit more. You might not get as much in terms of wildlife just because they're going to start going into hibernation and things like that. But you're going to maybe start seeing the beautiful change of seasons on the trees and the leaves, all of that foliage. A little bit chillier in temperature, but generally speaking, still very, very nice and mild, especially on the West Coast. And with Lake Louise and Banff and Jasper, they'll be ramping up, getting into their ski season. So there will be a lot of excitement for that as well. But a little bit of a slower pace of travel, very relaxed. You can do it at your leisure. And again, not quite peak season, so you'll maybe have a little bit more in terms of availability with all those extra amenities. So there you sort of have it in terms of when you can actually travel. I would never say, don't travel during this time, or you should travel during another time of year, because really it's 100% up to you and how you like to travel. But this also leads into all of those different things that you can add on to make your Rocky Mountaineer trip the envy of all your friends and family, and make it, something that's 100% custom to you. You really do have the ability to do that with sightseeing tours, with itinerary add-ons. There you see the Majestic Ice Explorer and the Columbia Ice Fields. We partner with Brewster Tours in the Rockies, and they take care of all of our sightseeing, and they really are the best in the business. So whether you want to get into the rugged Canadian North and go on an Ice Explorer for a guided tour, or try the Banff gondola, a helicopter ride. There you see beautiful Butchart Gardens in Victoria. There's really something in there for everyone. No matter how sort of outdoorsy or adventurous you want to get, if you want to see and do all those things, but have it be a little bit more cultured and taken care of for you, the sightseeing tours are a great option to get from point A to point B, but also check off those sort of sightseeing opportunities on the way. And again, I mentioned for those Canadians who have maybe been to the Rockies before, you feel pretty comfortable, you want to go off on your own direction. Well, we do have self-drive exploration available to you, where you can actually pick up a car, say in Banff, drive up to Jasper on your own, drop it off there, start your Rocky Mountaineer journey, and make your way to Vancouver, or vice versa. It's very, very customizable. So again, you can work with your travel advisor on all those different things. So I did talk about 3 different routes that we offer: First Passage to the West, Journey Through the Clouds, as well as Rainforest of Gold Rush. I don't want you to think that that's all you can do. Again, there's probably close to 100 different packages available to you. I'm just going to point out a couple of them here. First Passage to the West at leisure, that we'll actually be talking about a little bit more with a group option. There you see adding on extra days in Lake Louise and Banff, spending a little bit more time in the Rockies. If you're going through the brochure and you see a tour that you really, really like, but you know what, I don't want to go on the Ice Explorer, I don't want to do the helicopter tour, no problem. Use it as a template. We can take out whatever you don't want to do, replace it with something else, or you just have that cost savings go back to you, and maybe you can use it on a meal or an airport transfer or something like that. Now, if everything I've said is enticing you and you're saying, sign me up, how can I do all of it? Maybe the Grand Rail Circle is for you. That's when you combine more than 2 routes. So there you see, potentially starting in Vancouver, working your way up north to Quesnel, Jasper, taking a guided tour down the Columbia Icefield to Lake Louise, Banff, spending a few days there, and then taking the First Passage to the West back to Vancouver. So then you can officially say you've done it and seen it all. So you can do anything from 2 days all the way up to 13 days, and then just let your imagination sort of take over on that. But with speaking about the First Passage to the West, I'm just going to jump into the fabulous opportunity that Kemp and Lakeshore and Cardinal Tours are putting together. We say it's always better with company. So if you want to travel with your friends and family and not have to worry about booking every single component of the trip, this might be a great option for you. We are looking at doing a group departure in late summer, moving into the early fall, August 29th to September 5th. I think there's about 30 spots that are available, but Erin and the travel advisors will be able to get a little bit more into the details there. So this is taking the First Passage to the West, eastbound. So it's starting in Vancouver, working your way to Calgary via Kamloops, Lake Louise, and Banff. So I just want to show you on the map what your itinerary would sort of look like. It's 2 days in Vancouver, 1 day in Kamloops, 2 in Lake Louise and Banff, and then finishing off in Calgary, flying back to Ontario. There's a snapshot of it, just a little bit of a Coles Notes there of all the highlights. I'll go quickly through each day just so you get an idea of the pacing of it and sort of everything that's involved. It is a silverleaf journey. So there's the option of a single occupancy, double occupancy, and a triple occupancy in that, but it is Silverleaf hotels and a Silverleaf journey. So if you were kind of thinking Silverleaf was the way you wanted to travel, this might be a great opportunity to combine all of that. Day 1, there you see your flight. The great thing about traveling from the east to the west is you gain all that time on the plane with the time difference. So you're not spending, all of it boarding and onboarding, and then your day is done. You actually are going to get to do a little bit of sightseeing once you get into Vancouver. You'll be staying at the Pinnacle Hotel, which is a great downtown property, sort of where the savvy traveler often likes to stay. And then you have the Vancouver Lookout that you'd be doing later in the day, a great view of the ocean, the mountains, everything that Vancouver has to offer. So that's sort of your first day in Vancouver. The next day, you're going to be doing sightseeing to the North Shore, going across to North Vancouver. There's some of the pictures we saw before with the Capilano Suspension Bridge, absolutely majestic. And then going to Grouse Mountain, you see, and doing the sky gondola tour there as well. So that would finish off your time in Vancouver. Moving now onto the train, taking that 2-day journey from Vancouver to Kamloops and then Banff and Lake Louise. So we'll be taking that lower road. Some of the highlights include Hell's Gate, Craigellachie and the Last Spike, working your way to Kamloops in the evening. And then an early morning departure. There you see the Craigillachi there, the spiral tunnels, and then eventually making your way to Lake Louise and Banff at the end of day 4. Day 5 is really a national park sightseeing day. You'll be going to Banff National Park, Yoho National Park, spending time around there. So a great way to sort of check off those national park tours on your bucket list, your to-do list. And you'll be staying at the Caribou Lodge in Banff, which is a great property. Sorry, I should have mentioned Lake Louise is actually on that sightseeing tour for day 5 as well. Day 6, you get your adventuring in, going up the Columbia ice fields, doing the glacier tour, the glacier skywalk. It's definitely going to be a brisk day, even in late summer, early fall. But that's really an iconic, once in a lifetime type thing that you could be doing. And then we'll be moving over to Calgary for day 7. A little bit of a different sort of pace than what you'd find in Vancouver. Again, it's a big city. You'll get to do the Calgary Sky Tower, get to spend a little bit of time downtown, but there's also Heritage Park that they want to bring you to, which is a really cool, almost like Pioneer Village type thing. Very retro, tells the history of the area. So a little bit of time in Calgary to cap it off. And then day 8, I just have the plane because that's pretty much what day 8 looks like on there. But we do have more information. Absolutely speak with your travel advisor. They are doing an early booking bonus if you can put a deposit in by December 1st. Some of the timelines on there. And this gives a snapshot of just sort of everything that's included on there. There are some meals that are included while you're not on the train as well. So a little bit more of an all-inclusive type journey. And there it gives another snapshot of the itinerary of the trip. So if you're interested in that, I'll have the information, the contact information below. Absolutely reach out to Lakeshore or Cardinal Tours and your travel advisor on that. So promotions, we always have different things going on for groups and for the individual traveler. Right now we have our Mountain Bound promotion that's going until November 20th. It'll be replaced with something else. Because Kemp and Lakeshore and Cardinal are offering so many different things, I don't want to go into each one specifically, but just know that especially for 2021, we are absolutely trying to get Canadians on the train. So there's a lot of added bonuses like airport transfers, extra hotel nights, extra meals, merchandise credits, that sort of thing that we will be adding into your 2021 Rocky Mountaineer journey. So we really want to make it so 2021 is the year that you experience the Rockies in Canada's West Coast. I just want to add in one last thing before I wrap up about our new enhanced flexibility on our bookings for the 2021 season. Now, this would be more for the individual traveler, but what we've instituted is a risk-free deposit. I think if COVID has taught us anything, it's the need to be more flexible. So if you saw this presentation and you loved everything that I was talking about and you want to start your booking process now, you can absolutely do that in a risk-free environment. Make your booking today or tomorrow, whenever you like, and that will start a 60-day refundable window. So if anything happens and you need to pull out, no problem at all. There's no harm, no foul on that. But beyond that 60 days, what we're offering are 2 free date changes up to 60 days before travel. So let's say you're traveling July 1st, very patriotic on Canada Day. 60 days before travel, if you're still feeling like maybe you don't want to be going during this COVID landscape, if it's still happening, you absolutely can move that to later on in the year, 2022, even into 2023. We don't have dates and availability for that yet, but if that's what you'd like to do, we're happy to accommodate you. So you just need to let us know 60 days before travel, and any of the promotions that you have on your booking will absolutely transfer with you to that new date. The other thing that we're going to be adding on is a name change up to 30 days before travel. So as long as one of the names on the booking stays the same, we'll be able to do a name change on the other ones. we obviously plan for the best, but we know that sometimes life gets in the way, and we wouldn't want a situation where someone wasn't able to use their credit. Maybe they can give it to a friend or family or something like that. So we're here to help work with your travel advisors, absolutely, and they'll work with our Rocky Mountaineer team just to ensure that you do have that once in a lifetime experience to Canada's West Coast. So I'm going to leave it there. I'll take a breather. I'll take a sip of water just so I can recharge. I'll turn it over to Erin, but there is the contact information for your Kemp Travel agencies, your Lakeshore Tours and Travel, and your Cardinal Coach Tours.
Thank you very much, Tyler. That was great. And I even learned a lot every time I listen to a presentation about Rocky Mountaineer. I pick up something new. So I appreciate it. I hope that everyone learned a lot, and hopefully it sparks some interest in some of you. Again, we do have our fully hosted coach tour with Rocky Mountaineer. So if you have any questions specifically about that tour, please reach out to any of our locations listed on the screen there, and we would be happy to help you. We still have space, and as Tyler mentioned, we do have an early booking bonus on until December 1st, 2020. I know that there was a communication that went out whether it was today or earlier this week that said December 1st, 2021. However, that is not correct. We would already be traveled and back by then. So it is valid until December 1st, 2021 for that early booking bonus of $250 per person savings. So if you have any questions, you have the contact info there. So please reach out in regards to that. And again, I just want to thank everyone for coming out this evening. I know that it was beautiful out and it is getting dark very quickly, so we do appreciate you taking the time. I know that there's been a few questions in the chat box, so I did get back to those, but I will go over them for anyone who has not looked in the chat. So one of the questions was, is there, one question as whether wine is included on the train. Yes. All alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages are complimentary while on board the train. Asking about tipping. So for our group departure on August 29th, we have included the gratuities for the onboard host. So those are taken care of for you. For our group tour, it is dependent on what you do book, whether those are included. Correct me if I am wrong, Tyler.
Yes, even on Silverleaf or Goldleaf, if you're traveling as an individual, I think you can add those on ahead of time if you like, but it's personal preference. But you have the ability to do that on board as well if you like. Okay,
so we can go over those if you're looking at an individual booking, but for our group departure, they are included in the pricing that you do see in the package. Another question we had was whether you sleep on the train, and no, you do not sleep on the train. You're only traveling during the day, and you will be sleeping in the predetermined hotels based on what you choose at time of booking. And then someone also asked if there's a single supplement. There is, and if you have questions in regards to that, please reach out to either myself or any of our consultants, and we can go over the pricing for you, as it does vary based on itinerary.
If I could just jump in there, because that's a question that, other than the alcohol, which always seems to be the first question, about single supplements versus double and that sort of thing, it's really hard to sort of give a blanket statement that it's X amount more, because it's so dependent on the route that you're taking, how long your tour is, because a lot of it is based on hotels. So a 3-day single supplement versus a 7-day single supplement, they're really going to vary, whether it's Silverleaf or Goldleaf. So back to what you said, Erin, absolutely work with your travel advisor on that. And we try to be as transparent as possible with that. But I guess what I can say is it's not like single is going to be twice as much as a double or anything like that.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, if you have any questions about that, please do reach out to us, because it does vary, and we will go through all of those details and options with you. Yes, so if no one has any other questions, which I don't see any other in the chat, I want to just again reach out to everyone and say thank you very much for joining us. And we do really appreciate you coming out, and hope that you learned something new. Yeah, so anything else? by all means, please reach out to us. And just a little reminder, we do have another webinar set up with Anderson Vacations to go over some of our other hosted group tours in Canada, being Haida Gwaii, our Northwest Territories, and our Yellowknife tours. So that is on December 1st at 2 p.m. And all of that information is also online. So again, thank you very much for those who came out, and we look forward to hearing from everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining.